All right. So, yeah, as you guys can see, there's a couple pictures up here, and we're talking about them right now. Matt can't see them right now, so
I'm looking. Actually,
look,
I was able to pull it up right now.
you were okay. So
Well,
there's probably a little bit.
that's not me, dude.
That's not
The one
you.
on
Okay.
the one
So
on the right, the one on the right is me. That other
okay.
one's not me.
Okay. Well, it comes up. I will be. I'll just tell you right now that does come up. If you try to do a Matt Sinister search, it shows up as him, so it's not him.
It's probably
Okay.
another Matt.
Right. But there you go. And now, yeah, he has no picture at the moment. Oh, looks like we lost John while we're out. Okay.
There we go.
Uh, there we go. And John's coming back in. So sorry, guys. Yeah, Matt Sinister's here with us tonight. He's going through his journey down, trying to get a little healthier, trying to work out a little bit and get back into shape. And I thought it was a great thing to bring up because all of us are kind of looking towards that. A lot of us are, anyway, looking towards that as a
Hmm.
lifestyle change. And we haven't really pushed ourselves enough. You went out of your way even to get a little bit extra stuff done. So, first, before
Yeah.
we get into your transition, what's going on now, I was kind of hoping we'd dive down memory lane. Like, you used to be a wrestler. You had a few good matches. I watched a couple today. And just wanted to go down that memory lane and stuff before you got injured versus after you got injured and explain that whole situation because that had to have been a big change in your mental health for sure.
Well, my injuries in wrestling were concussions. I mean, yeah, I get my back dinged up and I'd have to go to a chiropractor and get adjusted and stuff or massage. But my primarily injuries in wrestling were I had 9 concussions that I'm aware of. Um, I started wrestling in 1994. November 7th, 1994, Fullerton, California was my first match. In February of 95, I drove to Calgary, Alberta, Canada to train with the legendary Hearts in the dungeon. And it was a hell of an experience.
Now that excited Lady Liberty when I told her about that because she used to watch all that and pay attention to who was in there. Like still to this day, Natalie was the only one. Is it the only woman or just the first woman that ever went through? It's the only woman that ever went through the Heart Dungeon, correct?
Who, Natalia?
Natalia, yeah.
No, no, no. There's been a few other women, but they just never
There
went
have
anywhere.
they just
Natalia
never went.
was, yeah, no, Natalia was, and the thing is that, um, it's kind of it's kind of been milked a lot over the years about what goes on in the dungeon. Yeah, once upon a time there was Stu would go down there and stretch the hell out of people and stuff. By the time I was up there, the school was on its last legs, and Stu
Ah,
could barely move. He never came down and stretched us. I mean, I got stretched by Bruce and Ross, two Hart brothers. But it wasn't like I was chained to a wall and beaten before I had to go wrestle for 5 hours or whatever. It wasn't anything like that. We would joke about it actually. Um, but no, it was quite an experience. I basically learned the basics there, the basics, hold to hold, how to bump. And I was there for 2.5 months, almost 3, and then I came home, and I started wrestling on the California indie circuit. So it was, and just it went from there. And then, it wasn't the best time to get into wrestling in the mid 90s. But then, within the next couple of years, the Attitude Era, the Monday Night Wars, that started to blow up and wrestling became hip and cool again. And work just started coming my way. And I started traveling all up and down the West Coast, Mexico. I worked a lot of Mexican lucha libre shows.
I saw that.
Yeah, which wasn't always number one. It wasn't great pay. Number two, when you're this asshole American heel, I mean, I literally had to at times I would have security escort me to my car, or I'd have to wait the fans out. I'd have to stay there in the dressing room and just wait the fans out, waiting for them to leave because they'd be outside wanting to fight me
Uh,
because they take it really seriously in Mexico, boy.
Now, I like with that one. That's one of the questions I had. I did see a match. I swear it said Matt Sinister. Couldn't really tell. It was kind of a bad camera like footage from way back. But did you hold a belt at one point?
Yes. The company that I helped start, that was pretty much the one of the catalysts for the launch of indie wrestling in California. There'd been indie wrestling before, obviously, because I had been working, but it was mostly Lucha Libre. The company I started with, when I came back to the United States from Canada, I went to another wrestling school, the School of Hard Knocks, with Billy Anderson, Jesse Hernandez. Jesse Hernandez was a longtime referee. Bill Anderson would do the ring announcing at the LA Sports Arena for WWF. So I went there and started training there, and at the same time they started up a company called the Empire Wrestling Federation. But when when wrestling really took off again in the late 90s, a group of us started a company called Revolution Pro. And after a year of being in that company, I won the Mexican Lucha Libre Championship, which basically was the Revolution Pro Championship, but the promoter, for whatever, wanted to call it that as a joke. So we'd have a different name of a title. I hated it. I never wanted it. I'd make jokes about it. I would say crap about it. I'd take my bumper stickers and put an X and cross out the Mexican flag on it. It was now understand this, in professional wrestling, a title is a prop.
Right.
It's a prop. It's used to tell a story. However, in order to be one of the guys that they deem worthy or good enough to carry a title, in most cases, that means you're doing something very right. And I won that title, and I defended it constantly. I told them, don't put me in tag matches. I want to defend this title. I want this title to go on. And I held it twice. If you notice from the footage back then, it's not like footage you see today. Back then, there was no commentary team. There was no surrounding lights. There was a camera and a tripod that got put in the corner, and you couldn't see half the audience.
Nope. And this was, maybe you remember this match I watched earlier then. Because I thought it was you, but I wasn't 100% sure. Like I said, camera footage from a way back tripod so you could see the whole match. It was against the Blue Meanie, I believe it was.
Yeah, that was me. That was me.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good match, by the way. Yeah, simple YouTube search, and if you guys will like, I can always put the link to that video in the
description. Go to my YouTube channel.
Oh, there you go.
Go to Matt Sinister's YouTube channel, and you'll find it there.
Yep. But there's quite a bit of footage of you here and there, and I don't know.
That's just
kind of exciting.
There's just a few matches. I think there's like 4 or 5 matches on there. Because you got to remember, back then it was VHS.
Mm-hmm.
So I
was surprised.
Yeah, I got a VHS, converted it to DVD, and then was able to transfer it to a USB drive and put it on upload it to the internet.
That's awesome. Actually, with chat moving a little bit before it gets away from us, John, you want to give a few shout outs? John's better at it.
All right. We got in the chat tonight, we have Jangles, Kira Views. Hey, Kira. Mowgli Vapes. Hey, Mowgli. Nice to see you all again. Steel Valley Vapors. Hey, Will. It's nice to see you in the house. You're still here. Thank you for dropping by.
Rock Silver Fox.
Lady Liberty. Benjai. The only toe bro is in the house. Addie Tooney is here. And Duchess Coils comes in with a sorry I'm late. And that's it for the moment. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
He hasn't power bombed anybody yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. No, that said, we did get a little bit of his wrestling history and stuff, a little bit of it, and I was making sure that the matches I watched were actually of him, and they are, so that's kind of cool. I didn't notice. It was probably then it had to have been your YouTube I watched it on, and I didn't even
Yeah,
notice who
probably.
it was. Yeah,
Yeah, probably. You go to my YouTube channel though, it's very limited. It's there's some of my old matches. The very first Juice Fast I did for 30 days. I have a weekly video diary that I kept up there. And now and then if you there's some vape mail stuff which I just did for fun. But what's going to be eventually on there is this documentary I'm going to be doing about my journey back to my health. There's already been some clips out on TikTok and Instagram. So, but eventually it's going to be like a whole documentary. Nothing fancy. I'm recording it with my phone. So, it's just something I'm doing because I really want to detail what I'm doing here.
I was actually considering doing the same thing as once I able to actually, because I wasn't able to get my cortisone shots this year because of that whole diabetes situation, getting
Mm-hmm.
diagnosed type 2. So I wasn't able to get my shots because my A1C was too high. So I couldn't really push myself through the winter time like I planned. So I'm going to have to start in the spring here. And I was thinking about the same thing. So I'm actually kind of going to follow you a little closer here on this to see how you're doing with it. Because maybe I can pick up some tips on some of the stuff you're doing. And
Um, well, tips number one: type 2 diabetes is completely reversible.
yep.
I mean, you have to live a no carb lifestyle,
Yeah, exactly.
which I'm about to do. Monday, I'm starting full keto, which is my sugars will be 12 to 15 grams.
Yeah.
My
They'll tell you.
carbohydrates will be less than 50.
Yeah, staying under 12 carbs a meal or 6 carbs a meal, like I did, that's insanity. I will let you know. It truly is. But can it be done? Yes. Is it necessarily healthy? You're occasionally going to have a cheat meal or here and there to give you a little bit extra vitamins and minerals and protein that you need.
Well, the only thing
The
is though,
type of protein.
when you do a cheat meal on keto, you have to do a keto cheat meal.
Yep. Yeah. Like,
I'll get
and it's still low.
keto waffles, keto pizza, which I doubt. I don't know. I may try it. Like I was a vegan for 4 years, and vegan pizza tastes like shit compared to normal pizza. There's no comparison.
Yep. Yeah, unfortunately. That
First
said,
time
do
I
you
had
hang?
the
Oh, go
first
ahead.
time. Sorry, the first time I had real pizza again after I stopped being a vegan. It literally, yeah, I've heard heroin addicts describe when they relapse that first high, because I ate the whole thing and I was just like, oh, oh, this is great.
I remember that feeling when I was vegetarian for a while. I wound up having kidney stones, but it's because I was doing it wrong. It wasn't nothing against the lifestyle, but I was doing it wrong. So, and I wound up giving myself. I wasn't drinking enough regular water. I was drinking mineral water, thinking that'd be a smart thing to do because it's healthy. It's healthy in moderation. Not if that's the only thing you're pretty much drinking, along with just eating a lot of vegetables because it has a tendency to settle in your kidneys.
Yeah.
But yeah.
All I drink now is water, and then I have a couple of Propel waters a day. I have a cup of coffee, decaf in the morning.
Got any questions about his wrestling career or anything up to this point, John?
No, I was just noticing. I was just thinking. I was talking about getting back on the health journey. You've seen a lot of former wrestlers, whether they're working with the DDP or not. Getting back and rehabbed. It's hard when you have that, that athletic prowess and that that athletic burn to come off of that, and then you consume the same calories you were when you were doing, whether it's playing football or in the ring, right? Um,
Well, it's different. It's different. Number one, because you're getting older, and as you get older, you don't burn as many calories. But like back when I first started, when I was 16, 15, 16 years old, and I first started training, And by the time I was 17, I was full into bodybuilding. I could squat 800 pounds, bench over 400 pounds, um, you know, 80, 90 pound dumbbell incline press. I'd run, I was running, 5 miles on the treadmill. It was not 5 miles complete running. You'd walk, you'd run, you'd jog, you'd run, you'd walk, you'd do sprints, getting that wind conditioning, which is, there's a difference. And a lot of athletes will tell you this, but particularly in pro wrestling, there's a difference between being in shape and being in ring shape because of how you have the cardiovascular conditioning that you need to perform on a certain level.
Yeah, I got a lot of hate back in the day. I've always been a fan of Mark Calloway. I followed his indie career before he ever came to WWE. And I got a lot of hate. I remember him coming back one time, and I looked at him and I'm like, he needs to get in the gym. It did not look like, that question between ring shape and out of shape. And he was not in ring shape. They brought him back way too early. And then he had a little hiatus and he came back looking much, much better.
Yeah.
But I can understand that. Addie Tooney had a question for you. How did the POWERBOMB originate?
POWERBOMB was created in Japan. A lot of modern wrestling holds and dives and things you see today came from Japan or Mexico. Actually, I was part of the generation that was in the mid to late 90s that, the best way I ever heard this described was by Paul Heyman, where, in the 80s, we had all the big man action. We had the Hogans, the Beefcakes, the, Hillbilly Jims, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Warlord, Barbarian, Demolition. We had all the muscle heads. Tell you a funny story about Warlord, as told by Shawn Michaels. One time, the Warlord handed Shawn Michaels a needle and said, "Inject me." And he stuck the needle in, and he couldn't get the needle in. He was having such a hard time getting this needle into his butt cheek. And finally, he got it in. He pressed the plunger, and the liquid, let's be honest, steroids were just squirted all right out of him. And Shawn Michaels looked at him and said, "I think you're full, brother." But anyway, my generation was the first that had said, okay, that stuff's all well and good and it's great, but much like the music scene, that's how Paul Heyman described it, was, you had the hair metal bands and everything back in the 80s was all about Motley Crue, Poison, Def Leppard, great bands, but then Nirvana came and pow, the industry got turned upside down. It was time for a change. And this stuff had been going on in Japan, and a lot of guys like Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero, Dean Malenko, Chris Jericho, that style to the United States. And you first started seeing it in ECW, then you started seeing it on a smaller basis in WCW, and eventually they started getting the right talent into WWE that started to use this style. Problem is today is that you've seen it 1,000 times over, and now these guys are just practically doing stunts, putting their bodies on. See, the thing is, pro wrestling used to be guys that were having a fake fight but making it look real. Now guys are out there supposedly trying to put on a show, but they're beating the crap out of each other.
Yep. Yeah, I know the transition, and we just wound up the other day, YouTube rabbit hole. We're watching YouTube, it came up after we watched something, and then there's a wrestling thing came up, one of the old Rumbles, and then it just went into all these other ones. And you're watching them, I was like, yeah, you can. I mean, all these guys were big and strong, and yes, you're talking about all of them. And one of the one particular came up that I think would be. I didn't realize they were all in at the same time. It was one of the Rumbles, and I didn't even know that they were in at the same time because it was at that transition period you were just talking about where they're starting to transition to the faster people. So you get these lumbering, meatheads, for a better lack of term, that are just brutal with each other, faking the fights, and then you have these people flying around the ring at the same time. It's like it just felt wrong. It didn't feel like they belonged in that same ring at the time. It was kind of weird.
Yeah, there were definitely some mismatches.
There's mismatches, injuries. A couple, I think one or two of the people went out with more than just a bloody nose in that match, and like Shawn Michaels actually got injured in that one. He went off when he went out. He was bleeding pretty good from either the nose or mouth. But that was actually interesting. I didn't even realize they were in the ring at the same time. I mean, that was during that time period right after I was out of high school, and a little while after, I didn't really watch much wrestling. And then Lady Liberty and I got together, and that's when we started watching again. And so I had that period of time. I only caught a few matches here and there, a few shows, and then I didn't realize how much it had changed. As in my head, it never made. I kind of knew a little bit from like Hogan, Andre. They were just power, just raw
Yeah.
power.
Well, Vince McMahon loved to promote bodybuilders, and he loved to promote big men.
Yep, he did, and it truly was that. These guys are some big guys.
Oh yeah.
That one in there, the size of some of these people. We think that Andre was big. Andre was one of the big guys. There were some other guys.
Well, he was the biggest. He was the biggest one, though, but that was natural.
Yeah, natural. But you had some guys that almost were like basically not as heavy, obviously, but because he was natural, or quite as tall.
Yeah.
But you had some people that are pretty close that were built like a freaking brick house.
You watch King Kong Bundy from back in the day. He was a monster. That
Yes,
dude
he
was
was in
huge.
that match.
He was a massive wrestler and just a big guy. Without being steroided up, obviously, he was just a huge.
Well, here's
presence.
the thing, too. Let me say something about that.
Yep.
People give, I mean, Hogan got crucified in the media. Vince McMahon almost went to jail. Back in, steroids had always been involved in sports. But people don't need to understand it's not a bottle that says steroids on it.
No.
There are many different forms of steroids. And up until, really the law changed in 91, most people that took steroids were doing it under a doctor's care.
Yeah.
It got out of control in the bodybuilding world. I mean, you go back to, the Arnold days and the pumping iron and Lou Ferrigno and all those guys, they were all doing it under a doctor's care. They were taking a little bit of this, to help with recovering of injuries. And you don't just take steroids and get big. You have to train even harder. You have to diet even harder if you're going to take these medications, because that's what they are. They're medications. Now, do they get abused just like everything else? Look at the opioid crisis that's going on, But, I really hate when people give people shade for taking steroids, because your work ethic is even harder when you do that.
Yeah, we have a recent example of that. Was Roman Reigns when he tested positive for the wellness program for steroids, was because of his regimen for his illnesses. That's part of it. And because it tested positive, he had to wait until he could take and stop taking that to come back in, because of their wellness policy.
Yeah, and it's also because that should be an exemption.
You would
you're
think.
Under a doctor's care. But this is what took place when Vince McMahon and Hulk Hogan, when he went to court and was his possibility of him being convicted and going to jail, he instituted a drug policy, and no one could do anything. No steroids. They tested for drugs. The only thing you could do was drink and take painkillers because they were prescribed you by a doctor. You couldn't even smoke marijuana. And so you had these guys that were constantly on a day-to-day basis taking painkillers and drinking to get through their 300-day-a-year schedule,
Yeah,
traveling
look at.
all over the world.
I mean, Shawn Michaels is an example of that. Actually, look what he
Big
went
time.
through in his transit. I mean, and he did clean himself up, and it was hard. He went through quite a
Man.
change, and you can see the change in his body. He went from being one of the. He actually did the change. He's one of the few people that actually went through the entire morphosis of being one of those kind of bigger guys that kind of lumbered around and
Yeah, but
got
the
more
reason
and
he was
more.
that big, the reason he was big like he was because he hung out with Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, and
Oh
they were a
yeah,
couple of muscle heads that were working out and eating all the time. So he was trying to keep up, but he was never, he was never a steroid guy. He was never, one of these big muscle heads. But he did things in the ring. Shawn Michaels, in particular, Bret Hart, and a few others were some of the early guys that started to put a change in the business. So you'd see more of a wrestling oriented style instead of just all this big man action stuff.
yeah, and he did. Painkillers were an issue for him because he had to. I mean, his knees were shot long
His knees
before
were
he
shot,
like.
his back.
Yep, and he
Yeah.
went through that addiction. So
We had a question I was trying to keep my eye on here from the only toe bro over in the UK. He says was it Brock Lesnar coming back from the UFC that started the whole realism wrestling when he was fighting with John Cena?
No, okay. Brock Lesnar is an anomaly. There's no one like Brock Lesnar. That's why he gets the deal that he gets, because of who he is. But yeah, I mean, what wound up happening was UFC became very popular, and there is a crossover audience. So that's when you started seeing tapping out in wrestling. It used to be a guy would just yell, give up, or nod his head and he'd give up. Then you started seeing tapping out. You started seeing more holds being applied, which is actually already going on in Japan. But you started seeing more submissions. The Undertaker's Hell's Gate, that's the Gogoplata in UFC. That's a legitimate hold. First time I actually ever saw that was in Lethal Weapon. Mel
yeah,
Gibson put that on Gary Busey.
Yeah,
But
people forget there were a couple of seriously dangerous guys back in the Attitude Era or just after. Ken Shamrock, who
Dan
was the other
Severn.
one?
Dan
Dan
Severn.
Severn. Dangerous guys would hurt you, but brought in because there was that crossover in the
Well, they were also both pro wrestlers before they were UFC fighters.
oh,
Yeah.
Ken Shamrock was.
Oh yeah, Ken Shamrock
realize that.
was a pro wrestler, and then he was primarily in Japan, and then Japan had a promotion out there called UWFI, that Universal Wrestling Federation International, something like that. Anyway, they tried to put on this style, this shoot submission type style, and excuse me, to try to convince everybody that was legitimate, that this is a real sport, this is a real fight. It wasn't, but they tried to make it look that way. You weren't going to throw guys off the ropes. There was going to be diving out of the ring. There was going to be none of that. It was basically guys wrestling and applying submissions.
Ken Shamrock was kind of crazy. I remember he peeled his scalp back once. I don't know if that was UFC. I think it was a UFC match where his scalp got kind of peeled back off his skull, and he still finished. And
have you seen Ken Shamrock today?
Not recently, but a while back.
Yeah, he looks like Al Bundy on steroids.
And I promise this is mental health related. I know we're going into wrestling, but wrestling, I mean, the things that people go through in the wrestling community and doing with the on the road thing. It's not like right now, it's almost a breather for the people that are like, especially WWE, where they just sit at the performance center. Not that being on the road lifestyle has got to be just torture on top of things, and no sleep sometimes. Just running the roads all the time, traveling from place to place.
A typical day in a wrestler, a WWE. Let's just look at WWE for a second. A typical day in a WWE wrestler's life before the pandemic. It's way different right now, but You wake up 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, eat, because you have to have a diet regimen too, to maintain your body and maintain your so you get up, you eat, maybe get another little bit more sleep, get up, eat again, go to the gym, and then get to the arena. And then you're at the arena and you're waiting, and then showtime. And then afterwards you pack up with whoever you're traveling with, head to the next town, or go to the airport, get on a plane. And you do that 4 or 5 days a week. Back in the 90s, especially in the 80s, especially, it was nonstop. You could be on the road for 9 months before you got a day off.
Yeah,
if you had a day off, it was on the road. Oh yeah. And there were a lot of guys, a lot of guys that they'd leave the house, they'd take their wedding ring off.
Yep. Tobro had a good question that I kind of have. It's a question I'm actually curious about because I'm thinking this. Do you think that the Attitude Era needs to make a return?
Yes.
I believe
Absolutely.
it. That's what I'm thinking too. I've been thinking it for a little while now. It feels like they almost got it going on.
I think it, but I don't want it to be quite the same because they did a lot of hokey and goofy things in the Attitude Era. We don't need the Jerry Springer stuff.
Or the NWO, where literally by the end there was 2 people that weren't in it. That's about it.
Yeah, I know. We don't need that. Well, here's the reality. I mean, AEW is growing, and I think eventually we can get to a point of another wrestling war.
That would be cool.
But I almost don't think it's necessary. What we need is for companies to agree to work with one another and have exchanges of talent. That's when it went back on in the territory days, when it was prior to cable television, or at least prior to national cable television. You'd have a guy, let's say Ric Flair, for example. He would go wrestle in the Carolinas, and then they'd say, okay, well, somebody from Texas would call up and say, hey, can we get Flair for this show, and this show? And yeah, sure. And then Flair would go out there and do that. And they did that with a lot of different people. And there were guys,
like an independent scene type thing.
Almost.
Yeah.
But
I grew up. I grew up on Mid-South wrestling here, so it had the Von Erichs and everybody, and you'd see people come in and out from the different promotions. You don't see that anymore.
Well, no, WWE doesn't allow that. They don't allow a contract with it, and you can't go anywhere else. Yeah. That's one of the problems that a lot of them have.
And it's also, what's bullshit about it is they're called independent contractors.
Yep.
And they're told, well, if I'm an independent contractor, as long as I fulfill my obligations to you, I can go do other things. No, you can't. I mean, they took away the wrestlers in WWE. They took away their cameos and social media pages that they were profiting on. They were making side money on their own, and WWE came in and said, nope, you're using the name that we gave you, or even if they weren't they were using their own name, but you can't do that. We need to, if you want to continue on Cameo or on social media, we collect all the money, and that now becomes part of your downside guarantee, which means there's no more money.
Well, look at it like when Stardust left. He couldn't take his persona with him. They wouldn't allow it.
Yeah, but he didn't want to.
He didn't want to. I wouldn't have anyway.
He did not want to.
What was bullshit up until just recently was WWE wouldn't let him use the Rhodes name.
Yes, that was crazy. That's what I'm saying. He wouldn't let his own name. There's a little bit of monopolization going on there with that, unfortunately. But at the same time, it does keep content for them specifically, but it takes away some of that fun for the audience. So it's like
it also makes it so the wrestlers have no negotiating power.
Yeah.
No.
I was not surprised when they packed up and started AEW.
AEW.
AEW. Yeah, I wasn't surprised at all. They got treated like shit from Vince McMahon for a long, long time. Both the brothers did. He hated Gold Dust. I mean, he stayed with it for a while, but in his heart, he hated Gold Dust.
Oh yeah,
and that Stardust was just another way of giving him the finger.
Now, you've been around the wrestling scene for quite a while, Matt. Like, one of the things, and this would affect mental health too as well, because like Ellie said, all these things stressors, big stressors. But like, say, I'm trying to think a couple of examples, like the Dean Ambrose character, where he pushed him into that almost like Bane character. You could tell he hated it, and it was really terrible. It kind of would have ruining him before he jumped ship.
Yeah,
but is that normal for them to try? Sometimes like McMahon has that idea and pushes people. Have you seen a lot of people just completely fight it and not be able to really handle it?
Oh yeah, they fight it all the time. But I mean, what are you going to do? It's like, fine, because the real problem in wrestling is if you're not willing to do something, there's always someone else who is. It's a very cutthroat, backstabby business. There's the guy in front of you will say he's your best friend. And then when you refuse to do something, he'll turn around and go to McMahon and say, I'll do it. You know, a lot of ass kissing goes on.
Montreal screw job.
Well, that was.
My God, that was something.
That was.
He had real.
It's amazing that's
for a long time.
Yeah, he still kind of does. But what a lot of people don't realize, there wouldn't have been an Austin McMahon feud had there not been that Montreal screw job. Because Vince pretty much turned himself heel from what he did.
Yeah.
And but the reality, I mean, there's two trains of thought on this. Number one, you knew you were gonna get rid of Brett, so why not get the title off him before he signs his WCW deal? You know, Undertaker's discussed that. Why they're like, just put the belt on me and I'll drop it to Shawn. You know, I mean, who can then drop it to Austin? I mean, the plan for a while. See, wrestling used to be, you had a year planning in advance.
Yep. And
it used to be, you know, just WWE, for example, it used to be just Vince McMahon and Pat Patterson. That's it. And then they'd run ideas off people. Now you have a team of writers. Most of them have no knowledge of pro wrestling. They've worked for television, television shows, and they're walking up to a wrestler and handing him a script, something that it sort of happened to me towards the end of my career, but I never went with it. Somebody would hand me a script and like, here's your script. And I'd look at it, I go, I would never say this. So then I would just go out and say what I wanted. And they'd be like, why didn't you stick to the script? I go, I forgot. I'm sorry. Always better to ask for forgiveness than ask for permission.
Here's a question for me from something that just came up in chat. It kind of makes me ask you this question. Do you think that anybody that you know of in the professional wrestling scene, like talking like America's, has pushed themselves to a limit more than Mick Foley? And hurt themselves for the industry?
I don't say push them when it comes to Mick.
Injured himself.
He was just and he also led the business in a direction that didn't necessarily need to go. You know, because of the way what he did in that ring. And the damage that he did to himself. He was the first one to just go out there and, you know, I'm going to jump off the middle turnbuckle to the floor and, or I'm going to, you know, throw myself off a stage or get put through, you know, a bunch of tables, get beat repeatedly in the head with a chair. Like I am happy now that chair shots to the head are banned because, I used to take a straight shot right to the head with a chair. And that's one of the leading contributing to the concussions I've had.
I never realized that, but you're right. I haven't seen a shot to the head in a long time.
No, they do a shot to the back if they even use the chair at all. It's used sparingly.
Yeah, you can watch them pull it back a lot. Sometimes it doesn't even completely make contact. It's pulled back.
Yeah, but Mick, as far as anyone that probably never had any business in the first place being in a wrestling ring, but then did the things that he did to show that, you know, I can, Mick was like, you know, if you go back to the ECW, the original ECW days, Mick was like the forefront of the locker room that was known as the land of the misfit toys. Where, okay, this guy's too fat, this guy's too small, This guy doesn't have a good look. This guy's too ugly. This guy's too pretty. There's always something that was wrong. And then they'd go out there and just have these garbage wrestling matches where they're just beating, it was Mick Foley, it was Terry Funk. It really did spiral out of control. And there are a lot of guys that either wound up permanently injured or in some case died. And it was from the drug use, because they were in so much pain and they were just constantly taking pills.
Yeah, you see him now. He hurt himself a lot. That one where he went through, like, they did the Hell in a Cell match. His tooth was stuck in his.
Yeah. That was something else.
That wasn't even supposed to happen like that. That actually, when he came through that first panel, that was not planned.
The plan that was planned. The plan off the top of the cage to the table. What wasn't planned was for him to go through the cage.
Yeah, it let loose. It wasn't supposed to let loose.
And he's actually said that hurt more than the dive off the top of the cage. I remember watching that with some wrestlers. We were sitting back watching, and I go, he's going to bump off the cage. And they're like, no way. 2 seconds later, he goes off it. And I was just like, yeah. The bar continually got raised. Then you had the Edge and Christian, Dudleys, Hardy Boys. You had them just going out there and just destroying themselves.
So, yeah, Edge and Christian, who originally came out of the Brood, which was a weird twist for wrestling vampires.
But Edge and Christian, they're being back. What are your thoughts about him rehabbing and coming back? Like Edge coming back?
I'm happy. I'm happy as hell for him that he can come back and try to finish on his own terms.
But it's just like that. You talk about rehab, like you're going through rehab now for trying to bring your body back. Look what he went through and to come back. I mean, I never expected to see him back in the ring.
I didn't either. And then when I think it was Daniel Bryan that really kind of was the influence for that, because Daniel Bryan's career was supposed to be over, and he didn't want it to be over. And he went to doctor after doctor, and he rehabbed, and he had other surgeries, and he went to, and finally he got cleared across the board, and he came back. And Edge saw that, and he was like, you know what? I didn't get to finish on my terms, so I want to come back. And then he comes back, and what I'm sure a lot of people aren't aware of, that if you're watching WWE now, you see they're doing this Thunderdome thing where they have basically monitors all around the arena so people can log in from home. You got to pay, log in from home and watch the show. And they're not really getting to participate because the crowd noise is fake. It's really bad. It's really gotten bad. But
they also, if you watch and look carefully, you'll see that the same person will be over here and over here. If they don't have enough people, they'll fill them.
Yeah, they'll fill them up.
Yeah.
But coming from talking about what it is now, from a wrestling fan, like a deep heart wrestling fan, right? I don't know if it's just nostalgia or I can't get past some of the character choices for right now. But I mean, when you put them up against your, the Hart Foundation, when you put them up against Shawn Michaels, when you put them up against, it's lacking. It's almost like they're water boys for these guys. And I don't mean that in any, it is offensive, but take it as it is.
No, I know what you're saying. Saying. It has to do with how they're being promoted.
Yeah. Yeah. It's gone to who Vince likes, who gets the push. And he'll push it even if the fans don't like him. And
way beyond. And he'll pushes some of those. He tries to push some of the narratives that work back in the 80s.
Roman Reigns.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where fans were clearly wanting Daniel Bryan, and they kept pushing Roman Reigns. They even had The Rock out there raising Roman Reigns' hands, and they were booing the hell out of Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
Yep.
It wasn't until just now when he turned heel, now fans are cheering him.
I felt the change happened a little before that is like when a lot of people are out injured. Him and Seth actually did step it up a notch there for a while. I think that helped a lot when they were kind of against each other because they had to because they didn't have enough people.
I guess it's like what I say, nostalgia. Mid-South Wrestling watching the old matches where the guys they pulled their punches right, and you get in these clowns that are obviously telegraphing stuff, and they don't, you can see that it doesn't connect. It's hard to get in depth in the storyline, if you know what I mean. From that, I mean, it is athleticism, and they do practice really, really hard, and train really hard for the things that they're doing. But it's hard to get deep involved in that now.
Yeah, being that you're from this genre of what you went through, and this is a part of your life, obviously a big part of your life. You love wrestling. I mean, you can tell right now. You're even keeping up to date now. You can see it.
Yeah, but here's the deal: I'm not the wrestling fan I used to be. Like half the time I don't even watch, Raw or SmackDown or, even AEW. I usually just watch the highlights on YouTube.
That's what I was going to ask. How much does this bother you, seeing some of these really terrible decisions being made in the way it's going?
It doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me. It's no surprise. I've just learned it. I don't care anymore. I'm too old for that. I'm too old to, I'm not in the business anymore. So why bother getting all worked up? But I mean, I do see things sometimes. I'm like, oh, that was stupid. But
let's get into your transformation here thing going on. What's going on?
Yeah.
What made you decide to try and start to rehab yourself again? What brought you to finally making that decision?
Well, a number of things happened. I was working as a security supervisor at Kaiser in Riverside. I got when the pandemic broke out and lockdown started to happen. There was the hospital was no longer allowing visitors. However, they were still allowing people to come in for doctor's appointments. But then that made it really easy for somebody just to walk in and say, hey, yeah, I have an appointment here, and then try to sneak in to visit somebody. Well, anyway, somebody had tried to get in to visit his baby mama, and they apparently didn't get along. And it didn't matter though, because they told him he had to leave. There's no visiting allowed. And he put up a big fuss. So that's when they called me. Now, at the time, I had been working 65 to 80-hour weeks, overnight into the day, or in the afternoon, overnight into the morning. So I was exhausted, and I had already put on, when I started that job, I weighed 290 pounds. When my last day at that job, I weighed 365. I had already been putting on a terrible amount of weight because my life was basically drive through on the way to work, drive through on the way home, sleep for a couple hours, do it again. That was my life. And so anyway, this guy tried to start a ruckus, and he thought it would be a good idea to start a fight with me. Unfortunately, this was taking place at 10 o'clock in the morning and not 3 o'clock in the morning. So I kind of had to try to follow the rules with all these people watching. And it was just, we fought, and it was largely just, he got tied up in my shirt and my radio receiver and everything. I was trying to pick the guy up and throw him off me. And finally, he got one of his arms loose. He started punching me in the face, and I was like, okay, that's enough. And I grabbed him by the throat and started to squeeze, and he submitted. But in that process, I did some damage to my back. So I wound up going to the doctors. They put me out on disability. I had to get a lawyer and workers' comp and this whole thing that's going on right now. I really want it to be over. But for the longest time, I was just laying around at home, laying in bed in pain, just constantly in pain. And I had a couple false starts where I was trying to do DDP yoga and do a good diet style, but something always happened. Where I'd injure my back wouldn't, or I had no motivation at all. And So just recently, I started watching a lot of getting back to watching like bodybuilding videos and strongman videos, and I was just like, and I've been talking to my doctors and talking, and they were just like, look, even if you need to have surgery on your back, um, you have to lose weight, you have to drop weight, you have to do this. And I was like, yeah, I know, I do, I know. And so I went to the I just decided that look, maybe I can't do this by myself. So I hired a personal trainer and a nutritionist, and like I said, I was kind of getting motivated from watching back to watching bodybuilding videos and strongman style video, and I just, it's recent. This just started happening, um, to where I'm back in the gym, 4 or 5 days a week. And I mean, it's a slow start. Believe me, there's a lot of pain, but I'm still doing it. I'm still getting it done. And, I've tried a couple different diet styles, and I just decided, I go, look, I really got to get extreme with it. And that's why I looked into keto and seen a lot of success people have had on the keto diet. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to give this a try. Um, and I'm trying to simplify it. Like, I have a couple different protein shakes, with things like chia seeds and pumpkin seeds and coconut oil. Um, and then I take a pound of either ground beef or bison or ground pork or whatever, and then I put like 6 eggs and some bacon and some seasonings and olive oil. And I'll make that, and that'll be 2 meals. I'll split that in half, and that'll be 2 meals, and that makes it real simple. Instead of trying to like figure out how to uh, make separate individual meals each day.
Yep, and I did. Yeah, if you anyway follows him on Instagram, he does have a photo he just put up of some of your groceries there and some of your diet plan at the counter. It
Yeah, that
shows the
was my
chia
morning.
seeds.
That's my morning. That's my morning smoothie.
Yeah, so I mean, if you're interested, in trying something. But yeah, the keto thing, when I went extreme like that, I did drop weight fast, and I have been. So there's a good chance that my type 2 will probably reverse because of that. Because I was hit a plateau, and I, like you said, I mean, nothing had really changed. I was still getting the same amount of, like, my chores were the same and everything. But if you think, as you get to be a more seasoned 21, then it tends to not like shed as quickly. You start to
No,
build.
no, no, it doesn't. I was really skeptical about keto because I was sitting there going, a high fat diet. How does that? Because I'm an old school guy where you just had low carbs, low fat, high protein,
Yep.
and you trained. So I'm just sitting there going, and this isn't a new thing because I talked to bodybuilders in the 90s that were trying these high fat diets. Of course, it was just they weren't doing it right. Number one, they're usually eating a lot of butter, a lot of bacon, a lot of cheese instead of things like avocados and coconut oil. And but and then I'm using supplements. Um, but I just know at this point in my life that I have to do something if I'm going to. I'm a suicide survivor.
Yep.
So I know that after that happened, I vowed I would never allow something like that to happen to me ever again. I wouldn't let anyone come between me and my health. And now I'm dealing with the point. I was like, I'm on blood pressure medication. I'm the heaviest I've ever been in my life. I get winded going to the bathroom. So it's just like eventually you just get, as they say, get sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Yeah.
So I just finally had to do something and want to do something and get motivated to do something. And it's like, you know what? I'm 44 years old. I turned 45 in May. I still got a lot of life ahead of me. And I don't want to be sitting in a wheelchair.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be bedridden all day.
And I did try
live.
I tried a high protein diet when I was in high school because that was the thing. I tried to cut out fats and carbs. Well, I wound up having low blood sugar issues at that point. That's what triggered my low blood sugar issues, and I wound up throwing up blood. That's how I found out. I was in wrestling practice, ironically, and I started I wound up throwing up blood into the recycling bin, the garbage bin,
Yeah.
and it went to the hospital, and that's what it turned out to be is because of my diet was so extreme, and that's don't do extreme, but this high fat diet thing I hadn't watched I hadn't watched calories, which I used to always think the calories really mattered. But I'll be honest with you, it wasn't the calories because have been shedding weight ever since Thanksgiving when I found this out, with eating a lot of calories but not as many carbs. I
Yeah,
didn't realize. Yeah,
I'm eating 3,100 to 3,500 calories a day, but it's 70% fat.
yep,
Yeah, that's the
You
thing
know,
people don't understand about keto diet is that if you imagine some balancing scales, this is where you want to go, and this is what you're doing to get there. But if you throw any sugar in there, any carbs that aren't supposed to be in there, now everything's out of whack, and you got to get it back right again. For keto to really work, you've got to be in ketosis. That's what keto means. Is that you're,
Mhm.
and so many people get it wrong.
yep,
Uh,
yeah. And
it works
I've
for a
been
lot of
losing
people.
weight, so it's actually working for me as well. But the exercise program thing, I haven't really started picking that up again. I was thinking about starting to do it again. Uh, like I said, waiting for those shots because my knee is grinds bone on bone because there's like 30% cartilage left in my knees. So it's kind of like if I don't have the shot, it's extremely painful to do anything, especially if you're standing up trying to do any lifting up high or trying to use your legs at all for anything. That really affects me. But like your back, I mean, did you have to really research a lot to figure out or did your personal trainer help with that to figure out what
No, the
exercises
personal
to do?
trainer is helping with that.
Oh,
The
good.
personal trainer is helping me determine, and very patient too, because there's times like I'll do something, I'm like, look, I need a minute. And they're like, no, go, no, take a minute, you know, um, because my trainer works with people with disabilities, works with people with injuries. In fact, um, there's my trainer runs a obesity youth camp and has asked me, knows that my trainer's a vapor and knows that I'm a vapor, and was very impressed at my knowledge of vaping. I'm like, well, I'm a hobbyist, and I'm also part of a community, one of the most closest, tight knit communities I've ever been a part of, that I've learned so much from. And my trainer wants me to speak to that youth camp about the reality of vaping, the truth about vaping, instead of just this stuff they hear on television, the stuff they hear on in school. Wants them to really be educated on the subject.
Yep. Well, for
So
one
that.
thing, are you like most people? Like, I know I'm one of these people. But when you started vaping, do you feel yourself getting sick less often in a major way than
Oh
you used
yeah.
to?
Number one, I don't wake up coughing.
Yep.
I don't wake up coughing my head off. Um, I or hacking up loogies of stuff like I did when I smoked cigarettes. And look, smoking cigarettes is one of the things that cost me my wrestling career. Was because I wasn't training hard enough, and it was because of this, and one of them was because I didn't have the best diet, and two, I smoked. Now I didn't always smoke, especially like during like prolonged periods of wrestling regularly, I didn't smoke. But then when I wouldn't wrestle, I'd go 4 or 5 months without wrestling. I would
Downtime.
smoke. Yeah, during the downtime, I would smoke.
That's why a lot of people in the military have that issue because you have a lot of time where you hurry up and wait, and they kind of almost push it. It's like, okay, you got nothing else to do. Go ahead and have a cigarette. It's like,
Yeah,
and the way they kind of push it is if you don't smoke, well, they'll go ahead and do some PT. They'll send you on something that you don't want to do. So it's like, it almost makes you want to take up smoking even if you're not prerequisite to do it. So,
yeah. No, I
Well,
mean, but
yeah,
I
no,
started smoking when I was 13 years old, to piss my father off. So, and I thought it'd be cool. So but eventually that demon gets a hold of you, and the addiction gets a hold of you. And
Yep.
quitting smoking was never hard for me. You get past that 3-day hump and you're good. 6-7 months down the road, when stress kicks in,
Yep.
you start having a few drinks for the stress.
That's the one.
They
That's
mix.
that was
Cigarettes
always what
and
my problem
alcohol
was.
mix.
Yes, but once you get used to having that combination, at some point, someone offers you one, like, no, 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 and then you get later on and you get a little bit more tipsy. It's like, yeah, sure, and then next thing you know, you're picking up a pack.
Yeah.
It's like,
Well,
yeah,
And
then-
that's what led me to vaping. Was I quit smoking in 2010, and but I replaced it with hookah, going to the hookah lounges every night. And then in 2016, my marriage started falling apart, and I would go to a bar. There was a bar right across from the hookah lounge, and I'd start drinking. And then somebody, hey, you want to go have a cigarette? And eventually, I was like, yeah. And then when I started to catch on, I was like, oh man, I'm about to buy a pack. That's when I looked into vaping.
Yep.
Because I'd gone 6 years without a cigarette, and then I'm having a cigarette here and there, and I'm like, no, I can't allow this.
Do you think you'd be able to do this rehab thing as well if you were smoking still?
No.
See, that's
No.
a major kick that people don't understand. We've seen it with, like, there's that bicyclist I brought up before that came into the shop, that old man who does triathlons now, and he said he couldn't climb a flight of stairs before he picked up vaping and quit smoking. So that
But
tells you,
I don't have that
huge.
problem with vaping. Vaping helps me. Vaping, especially for flavors. I can't have banana candy cake, but I could friggin' vape some bule bolu. I can't have ice cream, but I can vape Mitch Hogarth's butterscotch Ripple ice cream.
Yeah.
Dude, Mitch's liquids are great.
Yeah, Mitch is going to be on the other channel soon. I'm going to do like a little, I guess it'd be kind of I guess it is a review kind of thing, but it's more or less just because, when people do something special, they deserve it. I kind of throw it out there. But yeah, that butterscotch Ripple, we really haven't torn into that yet. Just a dream though that he made because Lady Liberty asked him to. That's the creamsicle. That's good. That's good too.
I haven't tried that one, but the one that's going to become my all day vape is the This Blows, the Blue Raz bubblegum, because I'm more of a candy fruit guy. There's only a few desserts that I like, and even when I like them, I only vape them, occasionally. But and Mitch actually heard me on, I think it was either on the Omies or on the Green Room, talking about how I use bubblegum e-liquid to quit when I started vaping, and then that Rocket Blast was my all day vape, and that's of course that's like a Blue Raz lemonade.
Yep.
And so yeah, Blue Raz combined with bubblegum. Take my money.
Yeah, that's the other one is that I was surprised about. Okay, when it first came in, I thought I'd want the Balboa. Balboa's good, but it's not. It reminds me of another this waffle cone one that Lady Liberty used to like. So she took that one, and I wound up taking the basic bitch, which I didn't think I'd like because I'm not really a pumpkin eat person.
Neither am I, but that stuff's good.
A pumpkin cheesecake. Oh, that stuff's delicious.
Yeah, hell yeah.
I know we're kind of giving Mitch a shout out, but it's when it comes to the DIY thing right now, that's going to become extremely important in the near future, for at least for now, until things change around a little.
And if you're into custards, I'm not. I've only had 2 custards that I've ever liked, and one is from you got it in your hand right there. Yep. But number 2, Uncle Chris, I haven't tried his yet,
but I have a feeling.
Over drips. The butterscotch was good, but it wasn't my preference. I'm digging this vanilla custard, and I got it right here in the Turk V2 on top of the clutch. Some Breezetone 26s on the inside. So good.
Yeah, it was the same thing with me. I hated custards. I tried them and kept on wanting to like them, because it sounds good. But then I kept trying, didn't like them, and then I finally got a hold of some of Will's, and it's like, okay, I do like this. So that was kind of the transitioning one for me, to decide I would at least try almost anything I wouldn't think I'd like. It's kind of like can't remember when Alex. I believe it's Alex. Is the egg tart. Not a fan of it, I'll be honest, but I will say it tastes like a true egg tart. If anyone's a fan of egg tart, they're gonna love it. And it's a way to keep you from craving some of these things that might not be so good for you, like the desserty ones, like you were saying. Lady Liberty uses them all the time. She was diabetic before I started getting my type 2, and she used them to curb her cravings constantly. Because it's hard not to crave
helps.
when you can't have it. Yeah.
Yeah, when I would do juice fasts, vaping would really help. Tell you what, Bule Bolu with coffee. Oh, and I only have 1 cup a day, and I want to have the whole pot, so I can just keep vaping Bule Bolu with it.
That's funny. You just mentioned the juice fasting. Excuse me. When you have the juice, I mean, if you have one that tastes a little off, have you ever tried to pair it with a vape to try and see if you can get past that hump of like just not liking it and making it help?
No, because I most of the time would make my own juices. It's only recently that I really started buying some bottled juices, just because it would be just so painful for me to run a juicer and to sit there and do all the cutting. I mean, I have pain doing laundry, doing dishes, going to the bathroom. My back is on fire.
To be honest with you, I've seen some nights where just sitting in the chair hurts you.
Yeah, that's why you guys on Discord see me laying in bed. Half the time I got a heating pad.
Yeah, and you can see the look on your face. You can tell the pain's just racking your body.
Yeah, you see me turn sometimes. I'm just like, yep. So it is what it is. But I know because usually when I drink my juices, I drink them real quickly because you want to get those enzymes. As soon as the air hits the enzymes, they start to die out. So yeah, that's why even high-powered juicers, the best juicer to use is a slow one. That
mine goes way too fast. It loses.
But it's a pain in the ass though. It's a pain in the ass because you literally have to chop everything up into itty bitty pieces and take your time putting all that stuff in there, and it's a very slow process. But that high pressure, those high powered things are immediately driving air into there and heat. So it's killing you put anything nutrition wise under heat, it kills it off.
Yeah, mine doesn't do bad with the heat, but it does just, you can tell it doesn't separate as well as it should. I mean, you wind up with the bag afterwards. It's like, I should have probably peeled it first because you put the bag inside the thing to keep it so it's easier to clean out.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm thinking to myself, if I peeled that first, I probably could have cooked something with that. It would have made more sense because it's so.
We give it to our rabbit.
Yep. I usually give it to the chicken. The chicken absolutely, or the goat. They love it, and we do have the rabbit. But if we give her something like that messy, she's going. Remember, we hold her all the time. We don't want to wear her.
I live in Southern California. I don't have a goat or a chicken. I live in the suburbs here.
Would you like us to get you one? We can start a GoFundMe for your goat farm.
No, my girlfriend is always constantly was like, for a while, I was like, I want to get a chicken so we can have fresh eggs. I go, you go buy a chicken. We're having a chicken dinner that night. It's like,
I'll be honest. It's not worth the amount of work, and if you're going to do it just for yourself, it's just not. I love the animals.
Yeah, no, I understand that. We have 5 cats. We have a dog and a bunny. And we had 2 dogs. My dog Chewy, as you know, I know, died not too long ago, and which was really hard for me because I had him 14 years. But we're just I miss having and we have a little Chihuahua that's 16 years old and on her last legs, unfortunately. But I miss having a dog. But I got cats and I love cats. So, I got my cat pack, and, you got to deal with a lot of hair, but,
yes, you do.
Yeah. You know,
And
like
they love to sit. They love to sit where you don't want them to. Yes, we know.
yeah, well, mine just like they like to sit. It's always on the bed. You know, they're always on the bed. And my big cat, Dexter, is always wanting to sit on my head, on the pillow. It's like I got a mountain lion on my head. But you know, at the same time, you know, they bring such a love and joy into your life. Animals do, and that's also helped me greatly with my mental health. I remember after my what I call my incident after my suicide attempt, which I was pretty much dead. You know, they had to use adrenaline and electricity to bring me back. And then I was in a coma for a while, and yeah, it wasn't pretty. It was actually my dog that saved my life.
Yeah, you were telling me that.
Yeah, I had passed out from choking on my vomit from taking an insane amount of pills, and my dog my dog alerted my wife at the time, and she woke up and found me, and was able to call the paramedics. But yeah, uh, when I came home from the hospital, my dog came up to me and just started like just did not want to let go of me, was kissing me to death, was like, you know, I almost lost my daddy. I almost lost my daddy. You know, and same thing with Dexter. Dexter wouldn't leave my side. So animals do bring that love and that comfort.
Especially for people living alone. If you're living alone, I mean, having that companionship means a lot, and that's where people sometimes people that don't have that, don't have pets, don't understand that when they, you know, if something happens, they just to the pet, how much that kind of it's like having a death in the family, like a real death in the family with a human. It's sometimes your animal means that much or more when they're gone. So it's something that, you know, can create a depression when you're dealing with that. And we've had a few people lately that are dealing with either about to or having that situation happen. So my heart goes out to you, the people that you know who you are. So
Yeah.
I can't do that with the crab. Oh, that wasn't bad. That was almost. That's right. Hey, that's the best I've ever done. Yay! I'm so proud of myself.
What is the big deal? I mean, it's.
I don't know. My hands don't like to do that for him. And
You know.
John's.
Not
My
even
hands are
attempting it, yeah.
my hands are damaged as hell. I mean, look at that knuckle. It'd pop out there. You know, that's punching New Jack in the head.
Yeah, you guys. Everybody, like what Matt's doing right now is something we should all strive to do. Try to keep ourselves good and healthy. Because even if you think you're healthy now or you're doing well now, don't let it slip because it's hard to get back. I mean, I think he can attest for that. It is difficult to get back once you slip.
And another thing I want to say, weight loss doesn't always mean you're healthy. You can lose weight, but that doesn't mean there's not pressure on your joints, pressure on your heart, pressure on your organs.
Yep.
You know, you're dehydrated. Hydration is so important.
Yes.
I got to drink 10 of these a day because of my weight. Because of how much I weigh, you have to drink half your body weight in fluid ounces. So right now I'm drinking close to 200 ounces of water a day.
And drinking makes a difference what you're drinking too. You don't want to drink 200 and some odd ounces of soda a day. That's
no. And here's
not even if it's diet. It doesn't matter if it's diet.
Diet's worse, but because it got aspartame in it. But that's another story. But if you drink, let's say you weigh 220 pounds, and you drink 110 ounces of water a day, but then you have 6 cups of coffee, so you have, 60 ounces of coffee. Then you have to drink another 60 ounces of water because of caffeine. It's a caffeine, sugar, or anything you put in the coffee. It's a diuretic.
Yep.
So you have to, especially if you drink alcohol. You drink alcohol, you got to match it.
Yeah. My rule has been for a long time when I get up first thing in the morning, a cup this size or bigger, I'm drinking that before I have any coffee.
I have one
all
of these
dehydrated.
before I drink anything.
Yeah, you're all dehydrated when you get up. So
the only thing that sucks is, especially as you get older, is I cannot sleep through the night without waking up a couple times to take a leak. and a hard one too, where you wake up and you're like, ow, ow, shit. Yeah. You know,
Yeah,
No,
no denying it. Yeah.
one of those things that's a misconception too is because you said, I mean, a lot of people, I always ran dehydrated before, but when you first start to lose weight and you start to get healthy and you start hydrating, you'll probably gain some weight as your body cells fill up with the water. But that helps later for your body to break them down, all the fat cells. If you don't have the hydration, it can't really pull the fat out of those cells.
no.
It,
And also remember, muscles weight is more than fat. So like initially, I started trying a few things, and I lost about 10 pounds, but I gained it right back as soon as I started training.
yep. But you're going to gain a lot of weight too when you do the water. But your muscles, I'm glad you were able to. A lot of times, when you take some time off, the muscle will deteriorate and break down quicker than the fat when you first start working out again. So you have to kind of build the muscle back up.
I'm fortunate though of being a former athlete that I have that muscle memory.
Yep.
My body's going, yeah, I remember this, but oh, it hurts. God, it hurts. You wake up some nights, it's like Rocky said, you want to take a cab from the bedroom to the bathroom because you're in so much pain.
Yep. What are your plans for the future? Like, what do you want to get out of this? I mean, how far do you want to go? I mean, I don't think you're gonna go back ring shape and go back in wrestling.
No.
That'd be interesting.
No.
All right.
No. One more match. No.
Yeah.
I'd
watch.
The one more match would be me getting in the ring, clotheslining a guy, and then power bombing him, and that's it. That would be one more match. And I think I already did that, but
you got a few people on that list.
Look, I would
power New York.
Yeah, I would power bomb Bloomberg and Cuomo, and it would be worth the jail time. It's like I've said this in Discord. I've said, "What are you going to do? Put me in jail with a bunch of guys who'll treat me like a hero? Do you hear what he did? And then I won't be in jail forever. I won't get life for powerbombing Bloomberg. So once I get out, I will never have to pay for anything vape-related ever again in my life. Because people are like, you're the guy who powerbombed Bloomberg. Here's this Mandalorian mech.
I want that.
Yeah. As far as the future plans, I'm taking this. I need to lose as much weight as possible. I want to get myself back into top physical condition. As best I can with my limited, because I'm still limited by the injuries I've had. Yeah. I got a tear in one of my discs, and it's completely deflated. It's completely, bone is practically hitting bone. But my doctor has said it should be able to heal it on its own once you lose the weight.
Yeah, because it'll take the compression off.
Yeah. But if it doesn't, then I'm going to have to look at surgery. But I mean, my short-term plans are just continue train, do this keto diet style, get as much weight off me as possible. From that point, I may consider bodybuilding again. I may consider just overall, just different styles of fitness, of just things to challenge myself. I don't really have any plans, just some stuff I've just kind of on the back of my mind. But most importantly, I just want to be happy and have a healthy, and if you don't have your health, you can't be happy, and there's people in my life right now that I tell them, you could point the finger at this and that. You can say this person isn't making you happy, or what this person is doing isn't making you happy. But if you're not happy with yourself, if you constantly are living in a world where everything is difficult, everything you do is hard, maintaining a day-to-day schedule is just impossible, and you're not eating all day, and then you eat late at night, you don't drink water, your health is going to suffer and you're not going to be happy until you address the real issues that are in your life with yourself, not with what other people are doing. You can take a situation and blow it up way beyond what it is. And you could point the finger at that and say, that's why I'm so miserable. That's why I'm unhappy. The reality is, what are you doing to make changes in your own life to make yourself happy? What are you looking at yourself and saying, okay, this is how I'm living and this is how miserable I am. What can I do to make myself happy? And if you don't do that, pointing the finger at other people and saying this, and that, it ain't going to matter, because you'll just consistently do that. People will come and go in your life, and you'll still find things to tear yourself up about and blame that person when you don't want. Everyone wants to do this. Nobody wants to do any of this. It's like everybody screams they want change in this country. We want change. We want change. We want change. Ask everybody in a crowded room, who wants change? Everybody raises their hand. Who's willing to change to produce that change? Nobody raises their hand. Nobody's willing to make the sacrifices. Nobody's willing to put in the hard work.
Yep. Chronic pain and physical health are a major factor in your mental health too, in creating that positive outlook of yourself. And they also are a factor on bringing you down. If you're in chronic pain or your mental health is not good, or you're in bad physical health, it tends to bring you to a point where you're a little extra snappy. You're going to be miserable even when you don't want to be, because it's just, you're dealing with all these extra pressures and everything is put on your shoulders, and that just adds to it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think what you're doing is awesome.
Especially when you think that you're all alone and no one can help you and there's nobody who understands. Look, there are plenty of people out there that understand. I try to be very humble about things, because especially during this time in this pandemic, when I just sit back and I go, look, I got a place to live. I have a car. I make money. I have friends. I have family. There are people right now that are standing in line for 8 hours to get a box of food, because during this pandemic, they lost their job. They lost their home. They lost everything. So I'm thankful. I'm grateful that I'm not that person. And I don't want that to happen to that person. I think it's bullshit in a country that has $54 trillion in it collectively, mostly held by 1%, that things like that go on. A country this rich, there should be no homeless. There shouldn't be anyone without any health insurance. There shouldn't be any of these issues. But instead of you got a guy that's got billions of dollars in the bank, and instead of you know what, I can feed and clothe every homeless veteran. No, I'm going to try to stop people from vaping. It's mind-boggling.
This is the same person that also banned the size of soda. It's like, okay, you have to. So okay, with my order now, I'm going to have 4 of these instead of one big one because I can't get what I had. That's all that changes the amount.
That's
of money.
all it does. It's just now you're just spending. And I think that was part of the idea behind it was he didn't care. He's like, well, instead of them buying one big soda for $1, they'll buy 3 sodas for $3.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll get the tax
because there's something weird about it. Yeah, and extra landfill, even though they're supposed to be environmentally friendly. It doesn't make any logical sense. Some of it might come from a point of ignorance, not understanding, because when you vape, people don't vape, and we do have some people watch this show that don't vape, so they don't understand either. It's not smoke coming out of your lungs. It's vapor. No. There is a difference. It looks the same, I will admit, but it is not.
Yeah, it looks the same.
I can tell you.
Talk to a fireman. Talk to a fireman about the difference between combustion and vapor. Lighting something on fire and burning it, that's causing smoke as well as carcinogens, is far different from heating up a liquid and inhaling it, especially with what the ingredients are.
an example is if anyone's ever went into a smoker's home and looked at the walls, if they have any white walls or any linens, whatever, they always have a
Hmm.
yellow tint. That's what coats inside your lungs. It's the ash and everything that coats inside your lungs, and that makes a difference. And the thing is, carcinogens that cause cancer. I mean, they're as much as they like to push it because they don't know how. There's no way to test for taste. Like, if you are you gonna vape that to the point where the coil is burnt to the point where it's putting off like metal vapor? No, not if you have a
No.
brain. Not if you have a
If
brain. But
have you ever had a dry hit before?
yeah, exactly. So they can't test for that. No matter what lab equipment they have, they can't test for that. So even no whether you're pro or against, to truly lab test it is an impossibility unless you have some way to taste the liquid. If you can't taste the liquid, you can't truly test it. I mean,
Well,
but
what are the ingredients in e-liquid? VG, PG,
and flavoring.
flavoring, and nicotine, and a very small dose of nicotine if you're smart.
Yep.
Um, PG, VG, and flavoring are in 90% of the foods that are on the shelf in a grocery store. You know,
And PG was used in pumped through hospital air systems,
yeah,
and the only reason they stopped is because it wasn't cost effective for them to do so because it had to be such a massive amount because it's
yep.
an antibacterial. So that I think is I truly believe that's why you see people who vape get sick less often than the people that even people that never smoked and just went to vape. They get sick less on vape than they did before. And the only thing that makes sense is the antibacterial properties.
Well, also, and plus the studies they did in France on nicotine when compared to uh, vapors that were why so few vapors were getting COVID, and not that no vapor got COVID. There were plenty of vapors that did get COVID, but I look at it this way because this happened to me when my father passed away back in November. I flew out to Florida to be with my family. Actually, I flew out there to see him because we weren't sure whether or not he was going to live. My oldest stepsister, who I was around, not a lot, but I mean, Florida is like, oh my God, it's so humid out there that
Oh yes.
I pretty much stayed out on this enclosed patio that my parents have with a tall fan just blowing on me the whole time, and I was just sitting there vaping. But be that as it may, one of my stepsisters, she was there for the night, or just for a short time. Went home, called us 2 days later, and told us she had COVID. Then I got on a plane and flew home. And when I got off the plane, I got the call that my father had passed.
Yep.
Everyone else that was still out there who had been around my stepsister, all of them, my stepmother, my sisters, I think my brother got out before he got it. My niece, my nephew, they all came down with COVID. I never got it. I never got COVID. What was the factor? I was the only vapor. And I don't know that for a fact, but I think it's true that there is something to this.
There's something to it as far as the way, because you see less. I feel less sick. I used to always get at least 1 or 2 bad colds a year, and I don't really do anything different than I did before, except for that. So
Well,
that's not a factor.
it's also, I think, paying attention to your nutrition,
Yep.
because I could tell you this, I haven't had a cold or flu in 6 years. And I only say that because I did get congested once back in 2016, but I was living in a house with multiple different people. And I already have really bad allergies. So I did deal with a nose cold. But other than that, since I started paying attention to what was going into my body and the nutrition factor, keeping my vitamins, my minerals, the phytochemicals, the enzymes, keeping my body healthy in that regard, I don't get sick. And if something starts to come on, I still feel a little scratch in my throat. I start to feel a little congested. I cough a little bit. I'll start juicing like crazy. It's gone.
I do have a theory on smokers being underrepresented too, but this is just my theory. Think about smokers, the smell, The fact that most people don't like to hang out with them while they're smoking if they're not a smoker. So they would kind of social distance themselves. Whereas you don't see that as much with vapors. You still see a lot of interaction. So them being underrepresented is a totally different factor. But with the smokers, I kind of wonder if that might be why they were a little underrepresented. It might not necessarily.
Well, I don't know about that because that's a factor, of course. When you're kind of having your own social distance, no one's around you because you smoke. But you also have to remember the carcinogen factor and what smoking cigarettes in particular does to your body.
Yeah, tears it apart. That's one of the reasons why I become so pro vape is because of the fact that I've had too many people in my family pass away from lung cancer. Quite a few have passed away from lung cancer because they're heavy smokers.
Yeah.
So
I've
it kind
had a
of.
couple people.
And if you've watched that, ever seen it, witnessed it, it changes your perspective. And that was the conversation I had with the senators in New Hampshire when they first slowed down and stopped that bill temporarily. Was the conversation about that because they asked me why I cared because when I found out as a consumer, and that was the key point that he said yes. He says not lung cancer, but he had another family member that passed away from cancer, and it just said lung cancer's kind of almost worse than the one he was describing. And we're discussing it, and so if you watched it and went through it, would you like to see your family member go through that because they couldn't have an alternative that doesn't cause cancer, or at least isn't known to cause cancer? At this point, we should have seen something flare up in 10 years. In 10 years, you can get cancer from smoking. It can happen. It does happen.
Something should have happened by now from someone who's been vaping for 10 years, and it hasn't. In fact, the opposite has occurred.
Yep.
So
COPD has been proven to be possibly reversed in many cases. People that couldn't before, like that guy I was talking about, the bicycle that does the triathlon, he had COPD bad. That's why he couldn't climb a flight of stairs. His COPD was virtually completely gone. His lungs, other than the scar tissue left behind from before, were clear. Whereas before they were like, I guess it looked pretty bad on X-ray is the way he's describing it. That was when the 9/11 thing was going on because he was like really angry. He goes, I don't want tobacco because it reminds me of it. And he's like going off, flavors aren't the problem. He's like, he was mad. He was really mad.
I lost it on a woman who, not lost it, but I kind of got a little heated. I was leaving Trader Joe's and someone wants me to sign a petition to put banning flavors to a vote. And I looked at her and I go, lady, kids are not smoking or not vaping because of flavors. They vape because they want to get high off a 50 milligram Juul pod, which you will do. Have you ever you quit smoking and then you start smoking again and then you have a Marlboro Red or a Camel and you smoke that for the first time in a while and you're just like, whoa. Nicotine can get you high if you smoke enough of it.
Well, that's what got me when I started talking, got everybody's attention. I led off with that, and this is the first time I ever publicly spoke at a hearing. So this is after everybody was with me. He's like, shh, don't sit down, shut up, because they're freaking out. And I got a chance to speak, and I said I would if I did, so I just pushed myself to it. And I led off with, have you ever seen, did anyone start smoking cigarettes and get addicted to them because they love the taste of ash in their mouth? And one of the senators up and started just cracking up laughing. That's one of the ones that talked to me afterwards. He just started laughing, and 3 or 4 of the others just followed suit and no, and they were ex-smokers. All of them were ex-smokers, and it's like, no, that's not why you picked it up. So is it the flavor what's addicting you, or is it the nicotine in it? Because of people have addictions. People are addicted to alcohol. Is it illegal?
Well, I think and. I don't really look at nicotine as an addiction, as more of a it's kind of like caffeine.
It's exactly the same as caffeine. Same exact level drug.
Because you could quit smoking, and you're not going to break out into a sickness like you do when you quit drinking or you quit using heroin or cocaine, or you're not going to. Some people have died from trying to quit, because their body could not handle not having this.
Even alcohol, people can.
And alcohol, especially alcohol. They say they're trying to say that vaping is a gateway drug to smoking and other heavy drugs. If there's any gateway drug out there, it's alcohol.
Yeah.
That is actually true. And like, think about it. Like, we'd already discussed this. When I did smoke, when I quit, the only time I ever caught myself smoking again,
Drinking.
even for a temporary time, is if I'd been to the bar a few times or hanging out with my buddies and my family and drinking. Yep. That's the only time I ever craved a cigarette anymore. And then I had a period before I'm a little special because I had a period between quitting smoking and vaping. But when I had my heart incident, vaping turned out that it drops my blood pressure because it reduces the stress, because I had that craving regardless if I was feeling it or acknowledging it. That craving was there. My blood pressure went down considerably when I started vaping.
Those two have always been together since alcohol was around. I mean, I remember going to bars when I first, before I was able to, let's just be honest. But, they had the old cigarette machine in the bar. That was a big thing, The people didn't want to have to be far away from their cigarettes, and those have always.
They had one at the post office. They had one at the post office for the longest time. It didn't even go out. It went out like just when they made them go out. That thing didn't go out even when it was supposed to. At the post office in one of the small towns where I lived, and my mother used to go in there and get them. And I'll be honest, that's where I started getting some cigarettes there, and the store where I used to be able to go pick up cigarettes for her because the old lady at the store knew that she had cigarettes, and I'd go get them for her at 11 years old. And I just started picking up my own cartons while I was there.
What's amazing to me is that we embrace other forms of technology, right? The Tesla, the electric cars were not mainstream automobile makers that started those out, but people have accepted that now, and it's like a thing, right? It's technology goes on. We don't have glass tube TVs anymore. We all pretty much have flat screens, right? That's what we've gone to now. So technology moves forward, and I think that vaping is part of that technology, and it's interesting to see why it's not embraced, why it is vilified, even when they look past, the big money that tobacco companies have. People in general just don't embrace it, and it's sad to see.
Well, you hate what you don't understand.
Yeah.
Yep. And on the side of caution, I found this out from the senators talking to quite a few of them in both states. On the side of caution, they will err towards the side of caution, which is the side of banning it rather than dealing with it. And they don't truly want to learn for one thing, a study, both sides have them. Which one do they believe? If they believe the wrong one, they look like an asshole, pretty much. So they don't want to. But the other side of that is, if they ban it, then they don't have to worry about it. So you have to explain that it's how much it's helping you on a personal basis.
Yeah. And along with that, I think we also need to, those of us who have had that experience with Chantix or one of those kind of quitting things that send them off the deep end, you also need to include those stories, because they also need to know that crap does not work for most people, that it causes, various mental problems, suicide attempts, a lot of emotional stress, those drugs do. And they need to hear that too.
Oh, another possibility. I know it's got a little vapey, but it is a health. Goes along with not Sinister's health, because he wouldn't be able to do what he's trying to do. He knows that if he's still smoking.
No, not at all.
Yeah. So one of the things that's also different that I think that we don't even never gets talked about much is when you're smoking or you're vaping, you're getting the nicotine on a constant level. Most of these NSAID things, these stop smoking things, are designed to give you a massive amount of nicotine, give you kind of a high, and then nothing. Like nicotine gum. For a few minutes, you got it. But then what do you do? What do you chew around the clock and keep on maintaining a high nicotine intake? And same thing with the patches. The patches are probably one of the better ones because you can get the slow release, but it's still not going to give you that instant gratification when you really need it. Like if you get stressed out.
So in the chat, Daryl says they keep saying it, and Matt mentioned earlier, keep saying that it's a gateway to smoking. I'm not leaving my minted milkshake for the tar of cigarettes anytime soon.
It doesn't. I know one person who used vaping to quit smoking, and he used a tobacco flavored e-liquid, and then he quit vaping after a year.
Wow.
My father.
And the ones that are using, I know they did create a situation where this is potentially slightly true. All this media making people afraid to vape has created some people that maybe vape but still had the addiction at this point because maybe they vaped the Juul pods or whatever. And then they started that way, and then they had to turn to smoking because they had that addiction already, but they're afraid to vape because of the media. That's very unfortunate. Those are the people I feel most sorry for, to be honest with you, is the ones that flip like that just because of the way the media portrayed it and the way the politicians portrayed it. It's unfortunate that those people could potentially die from cancer because of misleading information. It's just,
Yeah.
it's very sad. And it's because they already had found an alternative for a crutch, so to speak, that was okay. And for the most part, not 100%, obviously, but a lot less harmful than, I'm sorry, than even alcohol. Because when it comes to alcohol, if you take it to a point where it's actually a crutch, it's not healthy for you. You can potentially have issues, especially if you ever have a depression issue. You drink alcohol, it could become a situation like you dealt with. You know,
Yeah.
your incident. I'll keep it that. I've had an incident too. I know how that feels. And that's another reason why I keep saying, if you're feeling down, reach out while you still can before you
Yeah.
get down to the bottom. Because at the end, you won't wanna. You'll be okay with it.
No, when you make, and I remember back in the past, I threatened to do it so many times. But when I finally got to that point where I was like, I'm doing it, wasn't going to reach out to anybody because I'd made up my mind.
Yep.
Yep.
That's the same spot. And I was out of it enough that I woke up in the ER, sat up and said, fuck, I lived. When that happens, you know it's a bad deal. And then they asked me if I wanted to stay or if I wanted to go home, because at that point, me and my wife were separating because of everything that happened with my son, and everything was just too much for us. And that's when I just had enough. It's like, you know what? Screw it. I'm done. I've had enough piled on me between losing my son and this. And then when that happened, I woke up and literally said, fuck, I lived. And then they asked me, so do you feel like you can go home or whatnot? It's like, well, you can. I'm either going to be back here one way or another. So, they did keep me for a few days to give me a chance to try and.
You kind of touched. Sorry, Tim. You guys kind of touched on earlier, and Tim asked the question. If you get to the end of your journey, and I believe you will get to the end of your journey with your weight loss and get all that stuff done. What is like your ultimate goal? At 45, you still have a lot to, and even if it goes on a year at 46, you still have a lot of life and a lot of stuff to give to the world. What's your like ultimate goal at the end of this? Have you thought about that?
Oh yeah. I'm really into, I've been really into lately learning about van life, about, being able to travel the country freely and have like your own little, either a van or a small RV, and then kind of have that freedom. I'm kind of in a crossroads situation right now personally as to I'm not sure what my future holds as far as it can be very scary, especially when you're in the position that I'm in, as far as right now I'm out on workers' comp. I have a good amount of money coming each month, but it's the same money every month. So I have to budget. And I'm not entirely sure, but I try not to plan that far ahead anyway, because you never know when life's going to throw a curveball in your mix.
Right.
And everything you were planning just gets completely put on the back burner because of something that happened. So I'm really just taking life day by day. I have kind of an outlook on what, certain goals. It's like, okay, let's get the weight off. Let's get back into shape. Then let's see where things are going to go from there. I don't really have any concrete plans as far as what I'm going to be doing when I'm 46 or 47. Because who knows? 2016, June of 2016, I tried to end my life And by the following year, I was, I had split up with my wife. I was in a new relationship. Um, and I started working full time again. I started being driven again. You know, you don't know really what the future has. You can make plans,
Sure.
you can make goals, but I really do try to take things on a short-term basis because you just don't know what could happen. We don't know what's happening with this pandemic. Yeah, everyone's going to get the
This
vaccine.
is actually a good time to not make super long term goals because, like you said,
No.
things change. A couple of things are brought up about vaping there that I do want to touch on. The zero nicotine laws in Australia. Okay, these are the same people that say it's not that they say it's all about the nicotine. Then what about zero nicotine vape? Why is that a thing? Why? Okay, this device, if you don't put nicotine in it, why does it have to be labeled this contains nicotine? It should be labeled this could. The proper term is this could contain nicotine.
I got
Sorry,
the
it's
answer
just
to that. I have an answer to that.
so they can regulate it.
Well, not only that, but the reality is, uh, the tobacco industry knows that vaping is the future. They know it. More and more people are going to either quit or turn to vaping. So they want that money. They want that piece of the pie. They want to, and the way they do that is by putting the mom and pop shops out of business, so then they can regulate it. And they got enough money that they can go to the government, who's losing its ass because of the master settlement agreement. They can go to the government and say, okay, well, we'll pay you this percentage and we'll keep this percentage. The government be like, well, that'll more than take care of what we owe on our defaulted tobacco bonds.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find that in the U.S., I do think that a major factor is big pharma, and the places, ironically, that are really, and it's not all of them that feel this way, but the ones that are designed to help get rid of cancer, the cancer societies and stuff like that, actually can't let that happen or they're out of a job.
Exactly.
So,
Well,
yeah.
It's like this the famous one that everybody knows is the Susan G. Komen, for breast cancer awareness. It doesn't go for any studies. It doesn't go for any. It's just for breast cancer awareness. It's kind of the same thing.
It's a scam to make money.
Yeah, yeah.
And here's another thing too. During Cancer Awareness Month, whatever it is, if a company is deciding that they're going to put their merchandise half off, just sell the merchandise. That's fine. You don't need to make everything pink.
Yep.
I just want the normal T-shirt. I don't want to wear a pink T-shirt. Sorry. Just can I have a regular blanket or outfit or whatever it may be, just as you originally sold it, not when it's pink. It's just that's just a pet peeve of mine. Because WWE does that with the Susan G, and they put all their merchandise in pink, and I'm just like, I don't want to buy it now.
You could put it as
50% off. I wanted a Roman Reigns shirt. I mean, I don't actually want a Roman Reigns shirt. I'm just saying this in general.
Guys, everybody, he wants a Roman Reigns shirt. Get him one. Stat. Pink one.
Hey, it's like, okay, can I just get a normal shirt? I want it in black. I don't want it in pink.
I mean, you'd think that they'd have that as an option. How hard is it? You're going to have it printed up. You could have an option because there are people that don't donate. Might donate, but don't buy the shirts and stuff like that. Because of the coloring, that is a very big thing. Some people just don't like a certain color.
I do things for charity, but I don't talk about it. I do it anonymously. And when I do donate to charity, I make sure to stress to them, I don't need your calendar. I don't need your T-shirt. I don't need your blanket because, okay, that stuff costs money to make. So if you donate $25 and they send you a calendar and T-shirt, guess what? You just bought a calendar and a T-shirt. That's it. Maybe 50 cents of that is going to that foundation because someone's got to pay the freight on the product that's being distributed.
That brings me to this. We're going to do a little mini promo thing here for somebody. Doldrums, the end of this month, the 28th of February, for suicide awareness and prevention. All the proceeds go to there. And because it's worldwide this year and not stuck to just Philly because you can log in and watch the live event, this is one of those things where it's not really so much a merchandise thing. These are people that are donating their time to do this. And that's actually kind of brings me to it's a pure benefit for suicide awareness and prevention. And for at least Matt and I and Lightbear, to us, it's actually kind of a personal thing. We definitely support this in a major way. I'm sure you do. So, and the music is going to be excellent because just from Stan with having Emily Drinker on there with Michelle, oh, that was good. You watched that episode, right?
Yeah, and I've seen Michelle in concert before, not live, but I mean, you know, a video for lack of a term. Yeah. And it's really, you know, really good music.
Yeah, and a lot of these songs are something from the heart. There's a few that Michelle sings the song that she wrote for her son during that, and it's heartfelt. And she's not the only one. There are going to be many of those that have real meaning behind them. So if anyone's experienced that kind of loss, it might be it's kind of good. Even if you get a cry out of it, it helps heal. Sometimes you have to cry before you can heal.
And I can't imagine there's something, and I know you know this, Tim, that losing a child. And it's bad enough losing a child to an illness, losing a child to suicide. I mean, you just think, you know, and I think about my own incident and what that did to my parents and my family. And I live with that guilt that will never go away. It'll never go away. You make friends with it eventually, but it's always there. I did this, and look who I hurt. Look what I did. And I was lucky and fortunate enough to survive it. You know, because number one, I have a constitution like a bull. So apparently what would kill a herd of elephants didn't kill me. Yeah. And I mean, I took a lot. I had a lot of leftover medication, stuff that was years old. And I took handfuls of it.
Yeah, I shouldn't be here. It should have worked. Let's put it that way, yeah.
Yeah, it should have. And if, you know, who knows? Maybe it did work, and I'm in an alternate universe.
You know, I'm not the only one that saw this process. I've had so many near-death experiences where I should be gone. That 90% blockage in my Widowmaker where I had the heart stent put in, but I'd worked 3 days digging a water line for the house along with drainage ditches and filling them full of rock during this time. You're supposed to get 5 minutes, and you have like a 10% chance if you make it in 5 minutes to the hospital. 3 days working through this before it finally, So should we be here? I mean, and I wonder, is there a weird thing where I did die? Kind of like you almost think of Rick and Morty, where there's multiple.
Well, you know, I joke about that, but I tend to think that it's not true because I just came back as myself.
Exactly.
Wouldn't I wind up? You know, I love the theory of the multiverse. You know, I'm a big DC fan. I'm a Marvel fan too, but I'm a big DC fan, particularly the Flash. Yeah. And the Flash has the ability because he can run so fast, to go to alternative universes within the multiverse. And you know, wouldn't I wind up in a world where I became the next John Cena? You know, wouldn't I wind up in a world where, you know, I mean, you know, why did I just have to wake up and everything's still the same? Shit.
You know, I think after you come off of something like that, because I've had that, you know, that incident too came into my life, and I think you have to learn the difference between carrying things with you and on you. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You know, it's a lot lighter to carry things with you as a learning, you know, piece of life, you know, something that happened that you don't want to go back there again, or you want to make different decisions, than it is to carry on you, because carrying it on you is like trying to carry a sack of rocks up a hill, and it leads you back into those dark times. And I think that's one of the things that you learn from those situations, is how to carry it with you and not on you.
And yeah, I also learned that my loner lifestyle is not a good idea. When I realized I do need to reach out to my family, my friends, and maybe, you know, not avoid having friends so much. It kind of at that time, I was like, friends felt like work. At that point, like seriously, because you think of a friendship, it's a relationship, and it felt like, well, I got a contact, I got to talk. That was my attitude at the time. I don't feel like that sounds like work.
It's like Bobby the Brain Heenan used to say, a friend in need is a pest. Yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of the attitude. That's exactly the type of attitude I used to have. And I had to change my mindset on that. And it actually, I'm very thankful I did. It is a tough thing to do. And if you're in that mindset, try to change it. Do whatever excuse you need to do in your own head to do it. Change it.
Well, I think what came out of my instances is to judge people a little differently. Friendship's a two-way street. So you're contacting each other, checking on each other, seeing how and then what I learned from that is I don't have time in my life to be the one that has to do everything in a friendship. Like if I'm always the one calling and check in, you don't ever call me, or I don't have time for any of that. And it actually made my life a little lighter. Those friends that are there are going to contact you and check up on you and do the things. So,
well, it's the same thing in a relationship. If you're in a relationship, whether you're married or you're in just a committed partnership,
it looks right. No, that's for Kira. That's for Kira. She's hopping out.
But if one person is doing things, and if in order for a relationship to progress, both of you have to be willing to admit your mistakes.
Yeah.
Both of you have to be willing to make changes when those changes need to come. If one person in that relationship acts as though they do nothing wrong and they don't have to make any changes, then it's just like that with friendship. Then they are not serious about being your friend, about being in this relationship. If it's all about them, if they're just constantly saying me, instead of what can I do to make this situation better, and they're saying what you need to do to make this situation better, it's not going to work.
It's a doomed toxic relationship. Even if you stay in it, you're just going to continue that trend.
Well,
and it sucks too when you really when you really love somebody. When you really love somebody and you love what you have with that person, and you just watch them just make excuse after excuse after excuse, point the finger, act like their life is so difficult, and they want someone to blame. And 9 out of 10 times they blame their partner because their partner's not doing this, their partner's not doing that. And eventually you get to the point where you're like, you know what? I don't want to. No, I'm not. I don't want to do these things with you anymore, because if you have that type of negative attitude about life, you're just going to wind up bringing the both of you down.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And eventually you just have to say, look, I got to choose me. I got to choose my health, my safety, my future.
On the flip side of what you guys are saying, there's also like my heart issue. When I had my heart issue, it made me realize, because my daughter was in the car, Lady Deborah was in the car, my brother were in the car taking me into the hospital, and it did block for a second. I took in some aspirin, so it did let loose, thankfully. But for a few seconds there, it felt like forever. I'll be honest, for me. But I bet it only took a few seconds. I thought all I could think of is I wasn't going to see my daughter make it through college. I wasn't, all these things. I thought I was done right there, because I felt it block. I could feel myself fading. I was going down. I started slumping over, and I felt it. And that's how bad that was when it finally blocked. And then it just let loose. It's like, okay, let's go back home. I actually said that. You can ask Lady Liberty, because I didn't want to go to the hospital. That's how much I hate hospitals, especially after I dealt with what happened with my son. But to say that after that incident, I finally got past I was one of those people that if you wronged me, screw you, I'm done with you. I'm not coming back. I started being able to forgive people. I'm picky still. There are people that, I know that are not going to be good for my life. There's some situations, but I'll still forgive them for it and reach out once in a while to them, but I'm not going to let them come deep into my life again, because I know they're bad for me. But it did help me to be a more forgiving person having that incident. It was more like knowing that could have been it for me. Why hold on to these? Because a lot of it was stress related was what caused it. Yeah. And why hold on to that stress? What's the point?
I think a lot of times we don't give ourselves the advice that we would give our best friend. Looking into the situation, we kind of I kind of put up with it. Let's go on. But if you saw a best friend in that situation, you would tell him to get the hell out, right?
That's right.
And
That's what
so,
happened. It happened going by her work. So yeah, Dunkin' Donuts actually, and it was at time for her to go to work. So I was like, yeah, let's just drop her off and go home. It didn't work. They made me go. But nothing showed on the EKG. They were going to let me go home. They were getting ready to write. They're writing out my paperwork to go home after I'd been there like 12 hours. I couldn't find anything wrong with me other than my blood pressure was a little high. And because of my stress issues of going to the hospital because my son, they're kind of writing that off until a marker came back that something had happened. They got those indicator markers that say you had some kind of heart incident. And then they had to get my blood pressure down to transport me. And it took an hour of the ER driver, the emergency ambulance driver, one of those guys, to decide to put a nitro patch with the nitro paste under it on my arm. And that's how they got me up. And then I got there. Again, nothing shows up. They're ready to, they say, they talk to them about family history and stuff. We talk about it, and it is a family history of younger people in the family, especially the blood sugar issue I had too. Low blood sugars blood sugar can actually, in some people, cause the hardening of the arteries. I'm one of those
big time.
Lucky.
Big
I'm
time.
one of those lucky peoples. So, talking to him about that and stuff, and he go, well, we'd like to do a stress test, but from what you describe, and I told him the instance because I felt it, and I was an EMT, so I knew exactly the symptoms. It radiated out to my arm. I felt it close. I knew what was happening. So they gave me a choice between stress tests and going in for them to check it out and just go in. It's like, go in. Come to find out that 90% blockage on the Widowmaker, I would have never survived that stress test. There's no way. So luck was on my side as well. Thankfully, I didn't get one of those doctors that refused to do that until I had a stress test. So be thankful for what you can. The little things. Mm-hmm. That's a big thing for me. Mm-hmm. I thank my doctor every day just because he's willing to believe in me. That's the type of doctor I want. And that's the type of doctor everybody should strive for. Someone who believes in you and believes what you're telling them. Not someone who just goes off the book. If you have a just off the book doctor, and you're dealing with depression and anxiety, it might not be your best fit, and change before you get deep down that rabbit hole, because when it comes down to it, they might not believe in the hidden illness. I just want people to be prepared and healthy. So, sorry, that rant done.
Oh, man.
Yeah, we're going to let you go because you've been sitting there a while, and you are still dealing with a little bit of this back pain issue quite a bit.
This whole time, but I'm just that tough of an SOB, but plus I got to go blow mud.
Yeah, we're gonna talk. We knew blow mud was going to come up. The question I have for you though is, how's it going so far though? Before we get going, I mean, what changes have you felt, and have you lost any weight yet?
Well, no, I told you earlier I dropped 10 pounds.
Yep.
But I put it back on because of the water. and the muscle weighing more than, Yep. So, but I mean, I'm really expecting, like, within the next few weeks, once I'm going to start this keto plan, I think that's when the weight's going to start, once I get into ketosis, I think that's when the weight's going to start coming off.
Yeah. Mine went up for about 2 weeks and went right down. Started going right down.
I was going to mention this, and you might be interested, or you might not, Matt. But I thought I'd mention it. Mr. B over in the UK is also doing a weight loss journey. He was a bouncer for a long time, and he's a big reviewer, and and so he's got a whole group, Facebook group, and people that are kind of joining him on his journey. If that's something you might want to look into,
send me a link, brother. Send me a link.
I will.
And he's doing it. He's getting donations for his
cancer research.
Cancer research. He's going to do that's a way for him to drive himself. He's having donations for cancer research, and to not let down the people that are putting money into it. It's driving him to not, because he couldn't. Yeah. He wants that drive, so he can't make excuses for himself. Like he said, he can make excuses. Whatever. Yeah. I'm going to give this up. I tried. Whereas this way here, he'd feel guilty for it, and that guilt, he's using that guilt to push him. It's actually not a bad theory, and
not a bad theory at all.
And it helps out the, research. So
yeah. But no, my like I've already said before, I'm just taking it one day at a time.
Yep.
I
And I'm
got
happy you came
a
on.
program that I'm gonna, a schedule, what I'm gonna be doing. Not only am I working out with my personal trainer at this private gym, I also recently got a Gold's Gym membership, and a lot of the gyms are closed right now, but Gold's moved their facility outside.
Oh.
They moved a bunch of equipment outside, and they put a top on, and they fenced it all off.
So you can be more social distance while you work out.
Yeah,
Not a
Smart.
bad
yeah.
idea.
Yeah. Smart.
More social distancing. Yeah, and everyone, of course, wears a mask. They have a table there with spray bottles and towels, so you can wipe all the equipment down.
Wow.
I mean, it just means you got to carry more crap with you when you're at the gym.
Yeah, but
You
get
get a
on them
workout
for
before
being,
you get started and after you're done.
get on them for being innovative. Yeah. So
Yeah, no. So it's a my right now what I'm basically my plan is I eat I got, like I told you, how I make my lunch, my dinner, then I got a couple protein shakes that have different things in them, and I'm going to incorporate DDP yoga along with what I'm doing with my personal trainer, as well as more cardio that I'll be doing at Gold's Gym. And it's a build up process, because Thursday I had I'm training 3 days a week with my personal trainer, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So Tuesday and Thursday I'll go to, and hopefully eventually Saturdays I'll be going to Gold's Gym to do cardio. And this past Thursday I had leg day on Wednesday, and I went in Thursday to try to do some cardio, and I felt like an old man feeding pigeons. I was just like, oh man, this sucks.
right.
Yeah, first few days hurt a lot.
Did you start right out with jump rope?
No.
But you brought up DDP yoga. DDP helped a lot of people with his techniques and stuff that have went through injuries.
It works.
Most of the people that have recovered in the wrestling world from the severe issue have worked with him in some way or form. Most of them have.
Yeah, no, I've talked to him privately, and about the program, because I started doing DDP yoga in 2010 when it was known as YRG, Yoga for Regular Guys. Right in the early stages I started doing it, and I was doing very well with it, but then life happens, and you skip a day, then you skip a week, then you skip and I go back to it, and I did it last Wednesday, not this week, but the week before that. My trainer had to cancel, so I just went home and I did some DDP yoga. Oh, was it hell on my knees? Because one of my left knee was injured in the fight, and my right knee I dislocated in the ring. It slipped right back in. It popped right back in when I straightened my leg. And so, especially with at least I live in California, I can't imagine where you're at, Tim, but what that would be doing to my joints right now.
That's my biggest problem. It's wintertime right now, and that's why I say I can't really start to. Even if I didn't get the shots, I could possibly at this point do it in the springtime. But right now, if I do that, the fluid that builds up in your knee, the lubrication fluid, wears out really fast in the wintertime because it doesn't produce as quickly. And that's where I run into my issues. It'll start grinding, and then eventually my knee will literally lock up, and I can't.
Yeah.
No matter what I do, I have to physically move it with my hands. I can't move my leg. And then I've been on crutches. I've been on with a cane before. It's happened. It sucks.
This goes with me right now. This
Mine's
cane
over there.
And it's basically I don't need it to walk. I need it to hold myself up when I have a spasm.
Yep.
Which I have at least 15 a day.
Yeah.
So
well, I'm glad you're on this journey. I can't wait to hear more. I mean, maybe if this thing goes on, we can have you on again for an update.
Anytime.
Awesome.
Anytime. I love doing this stuff.
And maybe we'll have you on someday for another food talk with the juicing is a different way of life. That's another healthy way that for some people, everybody's different. You have to find
Yeah,
what
well,
works for you.
well, the plan that I have right now, because juicing is not going to be a part of the keto process, because
Right.
unfortunately there's a lot of carbs
Yeah.
when you juice, and that's why I'm using supplementation for that. And then I'm using cooked vegetables, but it's not the same,
Right.
by any means. But what I'm thinking about doing, and I'm going to be doing more research on this as time goes on, is uh, let's say I do keto for a year, and and that's the projected, like, I want to get down to 240 pounds. Right now I'm close to 400. So if I can get down to 240, and then after several more months, once I know I've plateaued and I'm at the weight that I should be, then I'll probably start doing quarterly juice fasts again, where every 3 months I do a 10 to 15 day fast, juice fast. I'm also using intermittent fasting during this process, so where 16 hours a day I don't eat.
See, that'll be interesting as we go on. Let us know how it goes. If we'd have you on again, and maybe we'll do a little bit of an extra part of that.
Well,
Dedicate it. That'd be a
you
good
know what
way
Yeah.
to do it. Dedicate it.
You know what I was thinking, Tim, is that there's so much mental health that goes into not being in the shape that you want to be in and be able to do the things you want to do. That might be something we might want to add to the Discord.
Probably, yeah, it would not be a bad idea. Like,
Talk
yeah.
about it. We could bounce ideas off each other about what everybody's doing and kind of get some ideas.
We'll call it the POWERBOMB room.
Hey.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
thank
power
you for
bombing
being-
was always fun when it came to, in wrestling they have something known as you get potatoed when a guy drills
Yep.
you too hard, and I would use the power bomb as the receipt, which was the payback.
Yep.
Where I would just drive down with every much of my weight and strength. I've had guys tell me they couldn't get up the next day. They couldn't get out of bed. They were just in so much pain. I'm like, yeah, you see my eye? My eye's shut right now because you kicked me in the face. You're working on my arm and you decide to kick me with the point of your toe in the face. But I digress.
Where can everybody? I mean, we already talked about it a little bit. I'll have you actually go through it one more time. Where could people watch you and watch his journey and maybe reach out and talk to you?
Well, I'm on most social media platforms. It's at Matt Sinister on Instagram, TikTok. I have a Facebook account, but it's private. And then I'm on Twitter, but it's at Matt Sinister at Twitter. But I spend very little time on there because it is very depressing, and it can be very
Toxic.
Toxic, yes. Rage sweat because I can
truth butter. You get lots of truth butter.
I can go after people, and believe me, Cuomo's got a few tweets from me. And I'm the guy that I'm not the negotiator. I'm the guy that you pull out, that you cart out like Hannibal Lecter when
you're the cleanup.
diplomacy has failed.
Right.
It's time for some aggressive negotiations. We're gonna wheel Matt Sinister out so he can just beat the crap out of everybody and power bomb the world. And I'm not saying violence is the answer, but it's worked for me. But
Right.
no, but in all seriousness, you find me at Matt Sinister on Instagram, TikTok, which I'm really trying to build the TikTok. I had gotten an account a while ago and was just kind of fascinated looking at some of the nonsense people do on there. But you can really build a following. You start following multiple different people. They catch on that you're following them. They start following you. Other people see your videos. They give you a like, they give you a follow, you start following them, you grow an audience, and that audience can transfer over to YouTube, where I have a channel, Matt Sinister, and of course, eventually, like I'm giving little clips. Excuse me, I'm giving little clips right now on Instagram and TikTok of my journey, but eventually a full documentary will be on my YouTube channel. So, and then of course in Discord, you can find me at the Vape Stew, the Cool Kids Club with Grim Green. Right now, Lethal Coils and I are doing a podcast,
Yep.
Cloudy Days, Calm Nights podcast, where we talk vaping, but we also just have variety of different subjects. We recently just, one that's going to be airing Monday, we talked about science fiction. Prior to that, we talked about 20th century television, just fun topics to just kind of sit around and shoot the shit. And it's going very well. And I want it to continue. And we do have some special guests lined up that'll be happening in the coming months. Yeah, that's where you can find me. Of course, on my YouTube channel, as I mentioned before, there is old wrestling matches from the late 90s, early 2000s. There is my video diaries from my first Juice Fest, and some vape mail, some fun little vape mail videos. Guys, thank you so much for having me on. I always really love doing this. Talking has never been my problem. Like, I did stand-up comedy for a short time, and everybody said the hardest thing was getting up and being in front of the audience. That was nothing for me, being my wrestling background. I was a dirty son of a bitch heel that would just love getting in there and telling the audience why I thought they were a bunch of stupid assholes in very creative ways. And it's not that hard to do when you believe half of it, and a lot of it's true.
He was a good heel.
Yeah. I tried.
And John, where can everybody find you at?
They can find me at Lightbearer, the number 2, and you on Instagram. Give me a follow. I'll follow back. If I don't get back to you right away, shoot me a message. Sometimes I lose track of all that. Other than that, you can catch me all throughout the interwebs on most of the vape-related content, and even some that's not. Remember, be kind to each other. Everybody's going through something. There's visible illness and invisible illness. So make sure that everybody gets the love, support, and understanding as much as you can give in your daily routine, and be kind to each other. Tim?
Matt needed that. I could tell. He's been holding it off for a little while, haven't you, bud? See? And he looks more relaxed a little bit already. It's like,
oh yeah, I mean, there's certain days where I'm just at a stoplight. I just want to get out of the car and run. Just like, get out of the car. Ah! I've been channeling the ghost of Sam Kinison lately. Yeah, but no, just doing these things. I mean, how therapeutic being part of this community, and being able to go in Discord regularly and just have a variety of people that I'm talking to from Canada, Australia, Kuwait, just all over this country, England. It's very comforting to know that you're not alone out there.
Yeah.
And there's people all over the world that you can have things in common with. Even if your culture's different, your lifestyles are different, you still have things in common. And you do, and it also helps you realize, as much as the world can be a scary, dark place, there's a lot of light at the end of that tunnel. Yes. And there's plenty of people out there that, you think no one understands, no one's going to go through, no one's been through what I through. There are people that have been through far worse and they survived. And they're willing to tell their stories, and they're willing to give you that shoulder. So just if you're having difficulty in life, you're not alone. There are people out there that understand. Now keep in mind, you still have to do the work. No one's going to wave a magic wand and it's going to get all better. But there are people that support you. And that's one of the things I'm trying to do with this, particularly on TikTok, because it can cross over into YouTube. People should know TikTok is no longer just a thing for kids. There are lots of adults on TikTok. A lot of silliness, a lot of disturbing things on TikTok. But, if I have to hear one more time people reenacting, "What are you doing, Step Bro?" I don't want to, I don't, that's funny to me. Sometimes that's funny, things like that, but I don't want to see it on a daily basis as I'm scrolling through social media. Uh, but yeah, that's out there on TikTok. But is trying to build a following as well as building more of a support system. And you got to do the work. You got to send out friend requests. You got to follow people that you necessarily wouldn't follow, uh, because they follow other people that you would want to follow. It's a whole thing, and you just got to put the content out there and just do it.
Yeah, if you haven't followed our truth yet, oh my God, the TikTok we put out. Oh my God. That guy is freaking nuts and hilarious all in
Will
one.
Smith too. Will Smith's got some hilarious TikToks.
That said, it's great that you're going through this journey. Can't wait to see it go further. Reach out to those people you don't know are struggling or you haven't heard from in a while. They could be going through some severe depression right now. And all three of us know how bad that can get. So you could save a life for real. I mean, if I'd gotten a phone call or reached out to at the right time, maybe that wouldn't happen. But I didn't. And I don't blame anyone else but myself for that situation. But it could have made a difference. Maybe I wouldn't have went to that. I mean,
yeah.
Unfortunately, our experience with this is too close to the heart sometimes. But
yeah, it is. It is. But unfortunately, I'm an open book, so I can talk about anything.
Right. All right. Well, love you all. Take care and be good to each other. Let me find the thingy. There it is.
The thingy?
Yeah, I'm going to show I'm going to go out showing. Got the music playing for it, but I'm showing the thumbnail because I think that's kind of cool. We talk a lot about wrestling tonight, so that's important. They can still do this at the moment. All right, now they can.